all right. This is Jeff Townsend, and we are beginning another episode of the Bill DeMott Experience live. Bill is actually out sick still, so covering him and joining me this evening will be Crowbar. Of course, Bill's longtime friend Crowbar and I actually follow each other on Twitter for quite a while, but we haven't talked much. So, man, I'm excited to get to chat with you a little bit more.
And we'll do some talking this evening, right?
Exactly, cool. Man. This will be our introduction to each other. So, yeah. So let's just kick it off, man. You and Bill DeMott have known each other for a long time.
Long time. I remember going to the local gym in my town, Strong and Shapely Gym. Still there. I'm still a member there after all these years. I was about 13 years old, and that's when I was getting into the phase where being a huge wrestling fan, I could tell wasn't going to be enough for me. Like, I wanted to do more. And I just really didn't know how to go about that. And I would go to my local gym, and I was lifting weights for football and stuff like that for high school sports. And I just saw this immense giant man there. And it was Bill DeMott. And at that time, he was on Independence as Big Sweet William. His 8x10 was up in the gym. And he was just this immense man. And one day I finally got up enough courage to go speak to him about pro wrestling. And way back when, he even told me right from the get-go how this business will never love you as much as you love it. So at a very young age, he instilled the need for me to, if I were going to pursue this, to also pursue a college or a trade or some kind of backup plan. And that's exactly what I did. I was I had to be an annoying 13-year-old kid asking him stuff about stuff I saw on Saturday morning TV wrestling or 605 on Saturday. And he was so patient. He would answer all my questions, never made me feel stupid. But he saw my love for professional wrestling, and he encouraged that love for professional wrestling, but he also encouraged getting a backup plan. So down the line, I eventually joined Iron Mike Sharp's school in Brick Township, New Jersey. And after I trained there for a while, and I also trained at East Coast Professional Wrestling, which is still there, believe it or not, in Lake Hiawatha, New Jersey, Bill took me under his wing and started showing me the more advanced moves like moonsaults, Frankensteiners, and all kinds of stuff like that. And at that time, he was doing the moonsault, which was almost unheard of for a guy his size.
Yeah.
So we've known each other quite some time.
I like how you plug the moonsault too. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm sure Bill's out there listening, or will be.
He better be. I hope he is.
If you're tuning in, Bill's lost his voice. He's sick. Crowbar's filling in. I know some of you are jumping in here as we get going. So yeah, we're going to be hanging out with Crowbar the next hour, man. So you've known Bill DeMott for a long time. And not only that, you've actually been wrestling for over 30 years now.
32 years, man. I started when I was 17 years old, and it's been one hell of a ride. A lot of fun.
Yeah. So let's see. We got a comment here. Chad on Facebook said Crowbar, the Star Wars fanatic. Yeah, we were just talking about that, man, when we first got going here, how you were representing that in your background. So
and allow me to gatekeep for a second. I was liking Star Wars before it was cool to like Star Wars. Okay. You know, way back when, if you like Star Wars, you had to like it in like your bedroom, behind the door, and under the covers. Otherwise, you were a geek.
Yeah, and now it's cool, man. People wearing Star Wars shirts, and hey, they may not even be Star Wars fans, and they're still wearing it. So
absolutely,
you were in it before it was in. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, man, we talked about it. You've been wrestling for a long time. And we're going to get to some of your stuff. We'll actually have some surprises for you later on throughout this episode at the request for some listeners. But we're going to do what we usually do and try to kick off here with like a main topic of the evening. So it came out this week, Crowbar, and I know that you're a busy man and you don't get a chance to watch every single moment of pro wrestling out there. I don't think any of us could possibly. I don't know how people could if they really wanted to even, but that's another topic for another time, I guess, because there's so much of it. But it came out this week that NXT, who's been shopping around a television deal, and I'll rewind that. Of course, there was the big announcement in the last 2 weeks that SmackDown's moving to the USA Network. What was it, $1.4, $1.5 billion. So now it comes out that NXT had as a TV deal with CW, which is of course, broadcast television network. It's not on cable, so technically it's available to more people per se. A good deal for them. I don't know if they come out with the figures yet, but I know the my good friends at the Wrestling Observer, who I always say that, Crowbar, because they have me blocked. Yeah, I figured you'd like that. But Brian Alvarez talked about how it was over 5% more revenue than what they're getting from their deal on the USA Network, NXT, that is. So
that's a huge deal
for them to get onto a bigger platform as you continue to see these large television deals happen. What do you think that is, man? I mean, it seems like wrestling's having a boom here.
I think it's great. I think the more wrestling that's out there, it's just more jobs for the guys. After WCW closed years ago, there was really only the WWE for a short period of time. You had TNA, you had Ring of Honor, but those promotions really didn't have the big TV deals right at the get-go. I believe TV deals enable brands to survive and to grow because more people can see them. So the more brands that could get on TV, the better, I believe.
Yeah, and it seems like, and Bill and I talk about this frequently, that the emphasis is not as much on it still is obviously on the house shows or it's basically one long tour for those of you that are new to wrestling. But it seems like these television deals, in particular for like an AEW, are a big deal because they haven't necessarily been having the biggest houses per se. So, Crowbar, there's also a lot of talk going on that what's going to happen with Monday Night Raw now. It is really the last WWE thing to tighten up and get a new deal when its current one with the USA Network ends. There's a lot of rumor and innuendo going around out there that a possibility is it could be heading to a station like TNT. Well, you may ask what, wow. People listening may ask, why is that a significant deal? Well, of course, because AEW is on TBS. And there's a lot of people talking out there. What does this do to an AEW if a mainstream platform like WWE comes on to that sister station and kind of, was that still their thunder? A lot of people are saying, what is AEW going to get a television deal like that? How much longer will they last without a television deal? There's a lot of concerns or just questions going on.
I think AEW is going to last indefinitely. And a lot of people will laugh at that. They'll scoff at that. And they'll ask, how do you know that? And my answer is simple. Because I'm a dad. Okay? I believe AEW will always exist, either being paid for by a network, being paid for programming on YouTube, on an app, on some kind of platform. AEW is never going to go away. Tony Khan's dad, God bless him, very, very immensely successful businessman. He has what, the kids call, and I'm not going to, FU money, big time FU money.
Yeah.
If I were a dad, if I were Tony Khan's dad, and that was a passion that my son had, that he wanted to try to learn and create wrestling content. He wanted to run a wrestling company. And I had the means to enable him to pursue his dream, right, wrong, or indifferent. No matter what people think, Mr. Khan, Tony Khan's dad, has this immense amount of money, FU money. And it's his prerogative that if he wants to let his son explore running a wrestling company, that's his business. And as a dad, if that was my kid and that's what my kid wanted to do, and I had that kind of funding, which most of us don't, I would 100% let my kid be happy, as long as X factors, of course, that it wasn't detrimental to my son. Running a company, I'm sure it's happened already on some level. People criticize Tony Khan, they criticize AEW whatever. It's a learning experience. I'm sure it's not spoken about, but in business, in life, in interactions with personnel and people, it's a life learning experience. I'm sure he's learned many lessons so far, and he will continue to learn many lessons so far. And that's all I'm saying. Mr. Khan, Tony Khan's dad, extremely successful businessman. I'm repeating myself. Has done incredibly well, has the ability to enable his son to pursue his dreams and to learn business and life lessons through this company. And as long as it's not hurting his son in any way, shape, or form, and if that were my kid, I would totally allow my son to continue with this experiment. And because of that, because I am a dad, I believe AEW will last until Tony Khan decides he doesn't want to do it anymore. You may see little changes, maybe budget cuts here or there, maybe not. But I do think that no matter what happens, there will always be an AEW. And it will always have a niche audience that enjoys watching it.
It definitely has a niche audience, that's for sure. And it's really one of those things where unless we hear some rumors and stuff from the dirt sheets, quote unquote dirt sheets, we won't actually really ever know how much money they're making or not. It's not a publicly traded company. So therefore, our knowledge of the success of it will be minimal. And like to your point, what as far as success is success to Tony Khan? Is it just having this business, maybe just breaking even, or is it just having this business because he's passionate about it? So you bring up some really good points there.
It's not a lot of people can fathom that dynamic because not a lot of people are in those circumstances. Tony Khan's father, Tony Khan, extremely wealthy, very smart businessmen. They have the capacity to continue indefinitely as long as Tony Khan wants it. And again, I'm repeating myself, as a dad, I can't see AEW going anywhere. It will always exist either as paid for programming by a network, AEW paying to be on a network, on an app, or on YouTube or something. It will always exist in some capacity.
You had the privilege of actually going on to being involved in an AEW match. I think it was it was years ago now. It was a dark event, right?
It was 2 years ago in Philadelphia, and I wrestled Joey Janela on Dark. Yes.
Yes, I've seen the match. It's been a while, though. How was your experience there backstage, man? How was everything?
I had a great experience. I tell everybody right now, I'm probably having the most fun I've ever had in my career. There is zero pressure whatsoever. When I was brought up in the wrestling business, it was never fashionable. You were told not to express how much you enjoy professional wrestling, how much you love professional wrestling. Life is great outside of pro wrestling, wife, kids. My business is extremely successful. I'm not being snarky at all. I'm just saying what is. But that enables me to really enjoy pro wrestling and do it on my own terms. So anything I do, whether it's a small independent show, AEW is a very large scale show, I had the best time. Everybody backstage was more than welcoming, more than cordial. And it was just a great experience. I always love working with Joey Janela. We have a long history together, and being able to do it on a major show for a major company, it was very, very special, and it's something I'm very, very grateful for.
Yeah, it's super cool that you got to do that, especially, like you say, you're not like a full-time active necessarily out there on TV every week wrestler. So obviously it sounds like he probably played a part in, because of your guys' past, maybe plugging you and getting you in there.
However, I will say when I do have the opportunity to perform, I believe I perform like a full-time professional wrestler.
Yeah. I'm not taking anything away from you there.
Yeah, so, Joey definitely put in some words, and he pulled some strings to get me there, and super appreciative for that. I was in about 2014. I was almost ready to hang it up. Not so much because I lost a passion. I just for a few years I had pulled back a little bit from pro wrestling. I was very busy with the business, establishing my physical therapy facility, had 2 young kids, wife, the whole 9 yards. And you're surrounded by people, friends and family, and all for the right reason, saying, the business is doing great. You got 2 kids, this and that. Maybe it's time to kind of get away from the wrestling. You're really not making much money there. Your life is in your business and your family, and you're doing well. You're getting up there in age. Maybe it's time to pull back. And I was you start to believe it, and you acknowledge that their sentiment is there for all the right reasons. They're trying to help you. They're looking out for you. And a local indie promoter asked me if I wanted to do possibly my last match with Joey Janela. It was literally 3 minutes from my house at the Hasbrook Heights VFW in New Jersey. And I went out there thinking that it could potentially be my last match. So I went out there and we tore it up. It's on YouTube somewhere. I came back from almost a year off or so, and I go, okay, I'm going to have one last hurrah, and I'm going to tear it up with this kid. I saw a video of him, and I liked the way he worked. Really, I liked the personality and all that. I go, I'm going to go out there one more time and just have a really good match. And we have this wild match, and that little flame that was left, it was like pouring gasoline on it. And
yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do think you're kind of at the point in your career also where you're really have a focus, because like I said, you obviously have a full-time job and everything else now. You have a focus on kind of giving back to the business.
I often ask to, although I am 49, 32 years in, I still enjoy working hard. I say I work extremely hard. I think I do things that look very athletic, very violent, sometimes crazy, but if I'm doing it, rest assured it's safe. I'm very much into the safety factor, and I often request to work with the younger guys. I like going out there and doing a 12, 15, 20-minute match, going hard with somebody young that's going to test my boundaries and how much I can do. And I like being able to give back and teach working hard, but working safe. When I come back from a match, a huge win is we're unscathed. We worked hard. We worked safe. We worked easy, but not lazy. And the people saw something that looks nuts, but in all reality, it's crazy. So I like showing these kids, and I call them kids because I'm just older compared to them, that you can work really, really hard. You can excite a crowd, and you don't have to risk yourself so much. So I enjoy working with the younger kids. I did a Thursday night show for WrestlePro last week, or was it? No, it was last week. It was a kid's 10th match for myself. It was a really cool challenge trying to lead somebody with very limited experience. 9 matches at that time, now being their 10th match, through a good, solid match. And I embraced that challenge, and it was really cool and a lot of fun. And the kid's whole family was there. And I told the promoter, I said, hey, let's put this kid up. It'll excite his family. I have no qualms about winning, losing. We're all part of a giant cartoon. And if you get caught up in winning and losing too much, you look stupid. I had a great time. The kid had a great time. He was happy. His family was thrilled. And I had a good workout, and it was a cool experience, a cool dynamic to be able to lead somebody with that much limited experience, because I hadn't done that in a very long time.
Yeah, phone's getting blown up, man, with people reaching out to us, so that's good. Yeah, if you're just joining us, we are live with Crowbar. Bill DeMott is actually under the weather again this week, so Crowbar was kind enough to jump on and take Bill's spot. Just get some content out, man. And the funny thing about it is, so last week we missed, and I came down to okay, I wanted to share some content still, so I went back to the Bill DeMott Experience from 8 years ago, and I narrowed it down to 2 episodes, actually. This is before you and I even spoke. It was Vince Russo, and then you also have an episode out there with Bill from 8 years ago. So I picked the Vince Russo episode. Then Bill messaged me hours later, and he's like, "Hey, I can't make it this week, buddy." And I was like, "Well, man, you think you know of anybody that could cover for us?" He's like, "Yeah, I bet Crowbar will do it. He's my man." And then it was just kind of funny because I just watched that interview moments before.
He asked last week, and I had that show that we just discussed. So I couldn't do it last week. So I'm thrilled to be able to do it and help out this week and, having a good time.
We have a lot of people reaching out to me live right now, and a couple of the comments are talking about how you on Twitter have a lot of posts, and I have a surprise for you. I'm going to share it, where you talk about, I think you call it indie outlaw wrestling, okay? Where we see these instances where these crazy risks are being taken for really no reason. Like, what's the reward, right? So before we get into this topic, Crowbar, I'm going to share this video with you. I think it's about a little under 2 minutes long. It's kind of hard for me to watch some of this crap, just to be honest with you. Then I actually, at the end of the video, you'll see a spot that you've talked about in detail. So I made this just for you, man. Actually, I was whipping this up.
I feel so special. Thank you.
Yeah, I was cutting it close on time, but I got it done, man. So let's see if I can get it here. I might have to rewind it once I get it up here. Here we go.
Face, pick him up. On the melon, Jack. You land crooked on that too, on the shoulder. That'll blow out a shoulder tear some time.
Charade getting on the top floor in the high rent district. Here he goes, crossing himself. Oh!
Wants to win this tournament. Drew's gonna fly, Sal. Oh!
Eric has up for a crisscross power. Oh! Dropped the right on the back of his head, John. And Eric, that was...
Podría quitarle y tratar de quitarle la...
Mickey out! Oh! Back of the head, right on the seat of the chair!
Percocet! Bam! Bam!
Riccaboni teams that are wanting to hurt each other instead of win the match. Oh my God!
Yeah, hard to watch stuff, Crowbar. But it is a segue into a lot of the things that you talk about. So, hey, man, we just talked about giving back to the business, working with some less experienced people, whatever. This is a huge part of it for you. And I did end it off with that Dante Martin spot because I had seen you tweeted that about that.
Before anybody chimes in and say, here's some old head talking down about, today's moves. I used to do a lot of similar stuff. Ask Bill, and he would always tell me for years, try to be more safe, calm down. I could honestly say that there were solid 4 times in my career that I could have been paralyzed or dead, without question. And I swear I have a guardian angel watching over me or something, because I should have even been dead or paralyzed from doing stuff like that. It is professional wrestling. Stuff could go wrong with the simplest moves. It honestly can. One of the very famous examples of that is, I believe Rob Van Dam fractured his ankle or leg doing a baseball slide because his foot got caught in the canvas and it snapped. So accidents do happen doing very, very simple stuff. But I think that there's a lot more we could do as wrestlers to minimize the risk of that happening. People see my videos now. They say, how do you still do a lot of stuff at at 49 years old. And again, I don't want to pull back the curtain 100%, but I had a whole catalog of moves that I know that I can do. And I chose the ones that I believe that look athletic, or they look violent, or they look crazy, or they look creative. And I know that I could hit those moves almost 100% of the time and take care of me and take care of my opponent. And those became my core of moves. I'm always looking to expand that. I'm always looking to add to it if the move can be done safely and if it looks cool and if it checks all those boxes. Is it cool? Is it athletic? Is it maybe violent? Can it be done safely? At the bottom, can it be done safely is the center of whether or not I do that move or not. And that's huge. And I didn't learn that until way later in my career. And a big part of that is I believe being a dad, being a husband, owning a business, but still wanting to be a crazy pro wrestler for whatever makes me want to do this. You just start being more selective. There was one time very early on in my career on Nitro, the hot move of that week was Scott Steiner doing the suplex drop into the pile driver.
Oh yeah.
And I did a show in Maryland. I was brand spanking new, and there was another guy maybe 3-4 years more experience than me, and he wanted to do it. And at that time, being a naive 18-year-old maybe, I felt that I would only do a move if I knew I could protect my opponent. And I thought that sentiment would be reciprocated. He dropped me. I folded up like a accordion. I thought I was dead, and thank God I was not. But the take home from that is don't be afraid to say no. If something doesn't feel right, or if you're not sure the person can do it. I have a great, what I call indie used car salesman shtick that I do, and guys know when it's coming. Guys that have shared a locker room with me enough of times, I will sit down with a younger guy, a newer guy, and I'll say, what do you want to do? And I will let him rattle through all his spots, and I will do my damnedest to get each and every one of those spots in, so he's happy and he's satisfied with what he got to do in the match. If during that time he mentioned something that I'm not sure he could do, or if it involves dumping me on my head in a very compromised position that I'm not sure he could do, I have a shtick, and I say, we're not going to do that, but I am happy to offer you 2 or 3 high spots of equal or greater value. And instead of that one, I will do 2 or 3 that I know we could do safely. So I'm not going to do that one, but I'll take these 2 or 3 others instead. I'm not being lazy. I'm just being safe. I think God.
Why do they think they have to do these spots though? I mean, that's what I'm wondering. Like, is it just because they're seeing it across the board?
I think because outlandish stuff gets a lot of views on Twitter and social media. But
so does Hulk Hogan hulking up.
I do the same with my clips, but they're safe. I have done a power bomb through light tubes. Again, I'm not pulling back the curtain, but I assure you 1,000,000% that spot was safe, and I came out unscathed. And even the locker room on that evening was amazed that I was not bleeding. If I do it, it's safe. I think it's for the clicks. I think it's because...
Is it for the 5 stars?
It's that too. It's this generation of professional wrestlers are without question the most athletically gifted ever. Things they do with their body, it's not just a front flip and a back flip. It's a front flip and a corkscrew and this and that. And it's incredibly athletic, and they do things. I think a lot of them do things without thinking. That Dante Martin spot. Dante Martin, incredible athlete. Everybody in that match, friggin' incredible athlete. You have 2 tables stacked, and they do that. It was a Canadian Destroyer
yeah.
table, right? And I'm watching it before it even happened. I said, oh no, this is going to be bad. And the reason being, I did 2 double table spots for WWWA. After WCW, it was this company that existed for maybe 2.5 years. They did a few pay-per-views. I worked with Norman Smiley and with Sabu. Against Norman Smiley, I dove off the Tron very high up through 2 tables.
Seen that one.
Against Sabu, I jumped off the top of a cage to the floor through 2 tables. So people may say you're being hypocritical. Not the case. I will totally pull back the curtain here because I think it'll make things safer for the wrestlers if they realize what they're doing. And I saw this in those other clips you showed there too. When you get up really, really high, you may think it's easy to judge a free fall. How many guys did you see outright missing the table? It's not as easy as it looks. But all that aside, going back to the Dante Martin spot, when I put Norman Smiley through 2 tables, when I put Sabu through 2 tables, I walked through that spot several times throughout the day. I was meticulous. I had them drop the cage. I lined the tables up, and I knew exactly where I wanted them. I marked where I was going to put those tables, and I put them in a spot. I put Norman Smiley's tables in a spot where I could literally hang and just drop through both of them. Once you start getting momentum outward, where it's not a straight drop, and you start getting momentum outward, you run the risk of tipping the tables. That's just physics. If it's not a straight drop, if you have momentum going outward, you're going to hit the table, and your force is going to drive that table to not break straight through. It's going to tip. Canadian Destroyer has all that rotational momentum, so they broke the top table, but I'm sure in their minds they thought that they would just drop through both tables safely and flat. That top table broke, and it rotated, and as it rotated, his leg hit that ground in a very bad way, and he chopped his leg in half. If you're going to do tables, it's not just, oh, I'm going to jump through 2 tables. You got to look at the angle. You got to look at where your momentum is. You want to be able to go through a table flat through the middle. Once you start adding this rotational stuff, you have to take that into consideration. I jumped off the top of a cage in February or March, whatever it is. I dropped the leg off the top of the cage. It's one move that I do. It's the only move that I'll do off the top of a cage because I know that I could hit it safely 100% of the time, protect me, protect my opponent. And as I hit this, you literally drop straight through the table the way I do it. I step off the cage, and it's a downward straight drop the way I set it up. So I'm not knocking this stuff, but if you're going to do single tables, double tables, and from extreme heights, you need to calculate momentum. You need to calculate rotation. And I've seen it on indie shows that I'm on where these kids set the tables up. Again, no disrespect meaning kids. They're just a lot younger than me. And they don't account for these things. It's like they just haphazardly say, oh yeah, we'll stack 2 tables and I'll jump from here to there. And if that table was far out from where you're jumping, if it's too far out, say they're jumping from the top rope to the floor. If that table's out far, you're going to have an outward moment. And if it's 2 tables stacked or 1 table stacked, if that rotation is wrong, you can risk injuring yourself. Physics, man. Physics.
Well, I have respect for you because physics, I trip over a small dog cage and get hurt. So I can't imagine jumping off one.
And I'm not an old head either. I used to take a lot of risks that I shouldn't have taken. Again, probably should have died or been paralyzed 4 times. And I understand why they're doing these moves. I understand the emotion behind it. I understand the dedication. I understand the enthusiasm for want to make your mark and have people remember what you did on that night. But sometimes it ends up really, really bad.
Yeah. Well, I do see your comments coming in, everybody. We'll get to some here in a moment. I even have Bill DeMott commenting here. So we know he's listening. We know he's out there.
All right. Hey, Billy.
Man, so let me ask you one more thing about this while we're on it. Do you feel sometimes, this is not me trying to get you in a bad spot, this is just how I feel. So I'll just come out and say it. And I want to know your thoughts on how I feel.
Sure.
Sometimes it seems like these days, and I can't, I'm not a wrestler. I could not do that. I mean, I can't put myself in those shoes, but just somebody that watches and has watched an absolute insane amount of wrestling for 30 years, it seems like that sometimes we in wrestling these days, people that maybe it's even fans like myself, we get caught up in the particular spots and we don't maybe appreciate the story as much.
I lost you for a second.
You lost me for a second? No, I'll sum it up.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, please.
I'll sum it up. We get caught up in the spots and sometimes we forget to enjoy, or maybe they forget to tell the story.
I'll say this, and I'll relate it to what I do. And I totally see that 100%. There are some amazing spots. What I think the business has lost, and then again, that's just the way wrestling is right now. I'm not crapping on the style at all. When I watch wrestling for my own enjoyment, when Chris Ford watches professional wrestling, I usually watch circa late 80s to mid 90s, WCW, WWE, more so. That's what I watch as a fan. But I'm not going to crap on this new style. I watch the new style. I keep up with it because I'm still involved. I still enjoy wrestling, being part of the business, working with these younger guys. So if I'm going to do that, I need to be proficient in what's going on right now. So I watch today's style. And if you don't evolve with the style, you get left behind. So I'm not going to sit here and say, these kids don't know what they're doing. F this new style was way back in the day, was way better. That's what I like. But if you don't evolve, if you're just going to complain about the new style, what's wrong with it? That gets you nowhere. If you're going to be a serious professional, you have to evolve with the times. What I will say is, I think I have a large move set that I believe is modernly acceptable. They're exciting. They're athletic moves. At one time, I did do a lot of light heavyweight / cruiserweight stuff. So if I'm working with a younger guy that likes to do a lot of stuff, I know how to base work, meaning be the person that, helps base for that move. I know how to do that. I think what makes my matches often different from the other matches is I call them creative transitions. And guys from that time told stories with creative transitions. What is a creative transition? If you watch modern wrestling, often you'll see spot, spot, spot. They'll throw a guy outside through the ropes or over the top rope, and they'll dive on him.
Yeah.
Okay, very direct. They get to the spot. Is there a more creative way? Is there a more artistic way to get that guy to the floor that the people don't see it coming? One spot I love, and I've used many, many times, I can't remember how far back it was, but Diamond Dallas Page was a heel in WCW. Marcus Bagwell was a face. And I love this spot. I steal it, and I use it often. Dallas Page had Marcus Bagwell on the outside of the apron. Dallas Page was inside the apron, turned his back to him, and he was doing the old forearms across the chest. Very traditional spot that people had seen it a whole bunch of times. The heel bends the baby face over, and he pounds him on the chest. On the third one, he pulls his arm back. Bagwell grabs him by the head, sits down, and Page goes flying over the top rope. You didn't see it coming at all. And every time I do it, it pops the crowd because it adds story. Spots like that. I think there's ways to transition creatively where I hate what I call my turn wrestling. Guy off, big move, boom, 1, 2, kick out. I'm up. I go to shoot the guy off. He reverses. He hits a big move. It's his turn. Boom, 1, 2, kick out. My turn where it's just move, move, move. I think it adds something to a match where you could easily just shift momentum with creative transitions. Lately, I've been firing back on guys. When I'm a heel, I will boot them in the belly. I will put their head between my legs like I'm going for a pile driver or power bomb, and I'll get back dropped out. I haven't seen that forever, and it's an easy, safe, creative way to transition instead of throwing a guy off the ropes, having them reverse the whip, and then hit me with something. Stuff like that. It could be as simple as whipping a guy in a corner, putting up your boot, and come flying out with a clothesline. Those are all transitions that are different, and they're down here. But I think the kids are all thinking stuff way up here the entire match where,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's these little building blocks I think that can make the wrestling better. I was talking with EC3 a few weeks ago. We worked each other. I use a turnbuckle smash. When was the last time you seen a heel smash a face's face into a turnbuckle?
it's been a while.
Yeah. And it looks different because not a lot of people do it, and it's safe, and it creates action, it creates motion, and it's not hard on the guy's body. So that's right. I think stuff like that, consider telling a story instead of going move, 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 move. Maybe move and then tell a story. How do we get to the next move? It doesn't need to be a huge novel, but putting these little kicks, these little steps in there makes it better, I think. I really do. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it made perfect sense to me.
Another one. People don't sell the floor anymore. You used to get thrown out to the floor. People would make wow. And the commentary would be, wow, they fell on that hard arena floor. That's only a half inch of padding or whatever. Guys hit the floor to get right up. Can we start selling the floor again? Or
Get back up so they can get jumped on.
Or maybe I'm just, no, you can still get jumped on, but sell that floor.
Yeah, I know.
Or maybe I'm just old.
No, I get what you're saying exactly. Yeah, it's about doing the little things, right? And it's almost like, don't worry so much about getting to the next big thing. You got to piece together the little things in between.
And I'm saying do the big things, but you could get there in a more creative way that's just not move, 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 move. And there's a lot of simple ways that look good, that add motion, that add action to a match, that doesn't kill the guy. Like you bang the guy's head in the turnbuckle. He doesn't need to bump it. He could hit it and he could sell out, and there's walking and there's motion and there's selling and all kinds of stuff like that. It's just adding these little ticks between the big moves to tie them together in a neater package. Or again, I'm just old.
Well, hey, we're all getting, look at me. You've got more hair than me. Gosh. So Bill's chiming in here, and Bill, I'm not going to put Crowbar in that position, but Bill's saying, did last night's show AEW show feel like a house show? Oh,
I did not see last night's show.
I did.
I had a late night at work, so I am sorry. I did not see it.
It definitely, and we touched upon this earlier, so it's not like we haven't touched upon it. It definitely seems like the houses are getting a little bit smaller and that live interaction gets a little bit less. But I mean, you can try to present out of it when you have a small crowd, right? You can make some areas dark. You can do all sorts of stuff. But then let's get to a certain point in time, and I think what Bill's saying, knowing Bill like I do, that it certainly starts to look that way. All right, so we have one more other thing here. This is really putting you on the spot before we segue to the next thing. If Crowbar could watch one company the rest of his life, would it be WWE or AEW? Man, I said I would take care of you tonight. I'm breaking that, I guess. That's a tough question. I can't even answer that.
I can't answer. One of the most challenging things of being a professional wrestler at 49 years old is fitting it into everyday life. I make it a point to be a present dad, a present husband, and I put sometimes 50, 60 hours a week in. I work depending on how many patients we have. I enjoy all my wrestling. I find time to go to the gym. I find time to do cardio. I usually do cardio at home, and that's when I catch up on all my wrestling. I enjoy so much having a wide variety of wrestling to watch. I like watching AEW. I like watching WWE. I like watching NWA.
Oh yeah.
But when I watch as a fan, if I have to pick what I watch as a fan, and I've already said this, I will go to that late 80s to early to mid 90s WCW, WWE era, and I will relive all those matches that I enjoyed watching as a kid. I have done a Monday Nitro rewatch before, and I watch it as a fan, but I also watch it for stuff. I have my notebook or I have my phone ready to report. Oh, wow, that's a good spot. I haven't seen that in a while. And I will do some of these creative transitions on independent shows. Oh, wow, man, that's really cool. How'd you come up with that? Dude, it's like 20 years old or more. It's just people stop doing it. There is a treasure trove of creative, safe, easy moves, spots, transitional spots out there. All you have to do is go back with a notepad and watch. There is an absolute treasure trove out there of things. So that's usually what I watch. And as I watch that time period, I'll often look for things that are creative that I like, that I could either use as is in my modern repertoire or take and update and make it more modernly acceptable. And again, I do a lot of cardio. That's one of the reasons why I don't blow up in the ring, and I amaze many 20 years my younger. So I will watch WWE. I will watch NWA. I will watch AEW. Like I said before, wrestling has changed. You can't bitch about it. You either got to evolve with it or become extinct. And I choose to evolve and not become extinct.
That's all you can do. It's important that, I mean, no matter if it's wrestling or life, really, you got to evolve.
Yep.
Okay, so you mentioned NWA. I do want to shout out a couple friends there, Chris Adonis and Aaron Stevens, of course. I do like the things they're doing in NWA. I'm glad that you mentioned that. So, okay, so you talked about a watch along. So we have a regular listener watcher of this podcast. His Twitter handle, we know him from Twitter. I don't know who he is, but his Twitter handle is Vince McMahon's mustache. Okay, so speaking of watch along,
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, it's it's got the old, Walt Disney style Vince McMahon picture with the mustache as the profile picture. But you talked about a watch along. So Vince McMahon's mustache, of course, talks about Bash at the Beach 2000, okay. Excuse me. You had a match with David Flair. We'll get into that, but I want to share the video first. If that's all right with you.
Sure.
Wait, David's in the ring. Come on.
Someone needs to get him out of here.
Let her go, David, please. Oh, there you go.
It's his former fiancée. He is manhandling right there. What is he thinking?
Women in lingerie slapping men. This is unbelievable. No. Mark Johnson believes it. What in the... Yikes.
You notice how easily she did that?
Like she's had experience.
Yes, I was thinking about that.
Oh, David, too.
We're seeing a lot more than we bargained for.
Oh, please. They're not even married yet. Shave her head. No, forget the bald women. I want naked women.
Crowbar's seen enough. He picks up the...
Oh, boy. The belly-to-back suplex.
Now Crowbar...
Now he's taking his pants off.
Oh, yeah, why not?
I'm very uncomfortable right now. Hudson, I can imagine how you feel.
This is pretty funny, actually. Crowbar
in his boxers, David in his briefs, the referee in his underwear. Where are the women? They're at a front suplex. Daphne to cut the hair.
Wait
a second. Hancock's got a mic.
I know what you people want to see.
I know what I want to see. Quiet.
Hit my music.
Why is she doing this? Music? At this hour? This is oh my God! This is a versionary tactic. I'll say. I think Daphne's the winner. Miss Hancock took her own gown off. That's it. The match is over. This is officially, since no one's saying anything, Daphne wins it because Hancock took her own dress off. But it looks like Hancock is going to win David Flair but lose the match. Hancock wins David Flair but loses the match. And look at the face of Daphne. What's she thinking right now? She looks like Trent Reznor. She looks like she's upset. Well, she is upset. She won the match, though, but did she win? Well, we all won. We saw Hancock's almost naked rear end.
Oh, man. And I've listened to
real funny story there. Real funny story. I think near the end, I headbutted the cake, or David took me by the head, smashed my face in the cake. And, it seems like an easy, natural spot you would do in pro wrestling. Totally forgot that the tears are held up by these thin plastic plates. I had such a gash across my nose. It was so hard to seal up with liquid bandage. But I came back and blood all over my face. Couldn't figure out why. And then we remembered it was, it had to be from those cake holder uppers.
Holder uppers. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've talked about a lot, and I've listened to a couple different conversations where you talked about working with David Flair.
Yeah.
And a lot of positives came out of it for you.
Had a great time. Again, not a fashionable thing to say. I got involved in pro wrestling when I was 17 years old. Stepping through the ropes into a ring was an incredible experience. And it was this beat up, half size boxing ring about 2 feet off the ground. And it was an incredible experience. You always have hopes that you will make it somewhere big, but it is life. It may not happen no matter how hard you work. And that's a reality of life. The fact that I got to work for that company, one of the 2 biggest companies in the world at that time, that I got to have a character as Crowbar, that I got to perform there with David and Daphne. I mean, there were so many people there, were worried about their jobs, worried about how long they were going to be there.
Especially at this point in time.
Yeah. There's always wrestling politics and backstabbing and all that. Maybe it was naive. I just enjoyed my time to the fullest the whole time I was there. I knew it would be finite. I knew that it would be over one day and I would go back to being a physical therapist. And that enabled me to just ride it out and have a great time. That's all I could say. It was an incredible blessing. Billy was there when I was there, which was super special. Knowing him from a very, very young age and having us both there at the same time. My only regret is that we never had a match there, which would have been great. We never worked each other there. But it's being with David, being with Daphne, just nothing but great memories, and just something I'm super, super grateful for. It's that simple. It was a great trip. It was a great experience, and I just no negatives at all.
Wouldn't do you any good if you had them anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly. I mean, every wrestling show has moments like this, throughout the show, right? There's some comedic segments and all that.
Yeah, there's always something wacky.
There's always something wacky, and that's actually not the greatest pay-per-view ever by Dave Meltzer and others ratings, but that's a moment, man, that I remember to this day. To me, it was like a good relief point in the show before it moved on,
Sure.
And it didn't linger on. It wasn't too long. It was the timing of it was pretty good. So it's cool that you got to have that moment, though. It really was.
Yeah, man. It was cool.
Man, so we're getting here towards the end. So typically when we get towards the end here, Crowbar, what we do is we talk about, I have a Facebook page, and a lot of people listening right now are on there. It's called On This Day in Pro Wrestling History. So I take moments that happen throughout the week and I share it every day. So, man, I did want to jump on here real quick and talk about a couple things that happened this week, if you're cool with that, just for a few more minutes.
Sure, man. Yeah, let's do it.
So, man, going back to the 7th, so on November 7th, 1994, on Monday Night Raw, Vince McMahon himself announced that Macho Man Randy Savage had left the WWE after 10 years. He would debut for WCW a week later, and he didn't appear back on WWE television again. So I've got to go ahead and pull that up here and share it.
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have more action for you momentarily. At this time, obviously conspicuous by his absence is the Macho Man Randy Savage. And I'd like to announce, unfortunately, that Randy Savage has been unable to sign a contract with the World Wrestling Federation, not unable to rather come to terms with the World Wrestling Federation for a new contract. But Randy, I know you're out there listening, and on behalf of all of us here in the World Wrestling Federation, all of your fans, and certainly me, the #1 fan, I'd like to say thank you for all of your positive contributions to the World Wrestling Federation. Thank you, Randy Savage, for all of the wonderful memories for so many years here in the World Wrestling Federation. We wish you nothing but the best. Godspeed and good luck.
You were in, okay, so I'm trying to remember your timeline exactly here. Obviously, I'm a fan, and I remember this moment because he's no longer there by Vince McMahon's side. So when this happened, you weren't quite to the point yet where you had made it on there into the scene yet. And we do have some moments later where I think it's going to, some questions about how that lines up with you. But what do you remember when this happened?
I was very shocked. I was like a lot of people watching with the both shows. So shocked that he left WWE, but also very, very excited to see what he would do in WCW. Randy Savage is probably my favorite wrestler ever of all time. I watch him on an almost daily basis, and you always find something that you could pick up that you might have missed. These small little things that he just did with his body, the way he moved, just an incredible performer. He is probably the guy at a very, very young age when I was watching pro wrestling with the capes and the sunglasses and the music. He hooked me as a wrestling fan more than I had been watching wrestling, but he really hooked me as a wrestling fan more than anybody else at that time. And he is probably my favorite performer of all time. And I understand this announcement. I believe when you go back to the documentaries and stuff, Randy Savage was doing commentary for WWE, and they say he wanted to wrestle. He still had stuff left. He still had the ability. He still had the want, and it's uncanny how that lines up with it. I can understand that 1,000,000%. I've been doing the promos on Twitter for a few years now, and the people go, "Oh, well, you speak so well when you do the promos, the way you articulate and tell the story. You would be a great manager one day." Or the way you do the promos, or the way you preach about safety is this and that. You'd be a great agent or a great coach. And I just had zero interest in doing any of those things. I am a professional wrestler. I love being a professional wrestler. I remember in high school when I got hurt a few times playing football, and you had to be on the field and watch your team play. I supported my team. I loved my teammates. I wanted my team to win, but nothing was worse than watching when you wanted to play. And being a manager, being an agent, being a coach would be watching when I want to play. It's just something I have no interest in. And people at that time, you'll hear people in the industry say, "Well, Savage was stupid. He could have made a lot of money just talking and not taking bumps and this and that." I 1,000,000% understand why he would jump from being an announcer to once again being a pro wrestler if you really wanted that. I totally relate with that 1,000,000%.
How cool is that? You're the biggest Randy. That's your main guy.
Yeah.
I was able to share that clip with you. So
Yep.
next one, man. So this was actually 8th. So yesterday, as of this recording, Eddie Guerrero defeated Mr. Kennedy on SmackDown, earned a spot on the Blue Brand team's upcoming Survivor Series pay-per-view. Unfortunately, he couldn't make the event because this was his last match.
We're going to find out here in this qualifying matchup. Kennedy crosses into the referee, and referee Charles Robinson sandwiched.
Inadvertently.
There's that grin of Eddie. And there's the grin of Eddie Guerrero, which means he's up to no good.
And now
Eddie Guerrero with steel chair in hand.
Guerrero's got that big grin on his face. And Kennedy's about to eat the chair.
Eddie realizing the referee's coming to here.
What the hell?
And he has tossed the evidence to Kennedy. This is classic Eddie.
Oh, my God.
Kennedy caught red-handed.
Oh, my God.
Kennedy caught red-handed.
God, you got to be kidding me.
The winner of this match as a result of a disqualification, Eddie Guerrero.
That is vintage Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, my God, Guerrero. and he advances. Guerrero advances to the Survivor Series team.
Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy for me to watch and think about. I actually remember watching that live, but just kind of like that whole aura they had wrapped up of Eddie Guerrero there in his last 5 years. And to think that was his last match, where the whole lie, cheat, steal thing with Ken Anderson. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty memorable moment for a lot of people just because of how it played out and the creativity behind it.
Very memorable for me. The greatest, the best wrestling match of my entire career. 32 years, entire career, was against Eddie Guerrero in Queens, New York at the historic Elks Lodge for USA Pro Wrestling. It was during one of his hiatuses from WWE for I don't know why he got suspended, some kind of reason. And I worked against Eddie. It was almost a 20-minute match. We worked our asses off. We worked really hard. And it's really special to me and also my wife. I had met my wife shortly after my release from WCW. She was an independent pro wrestler. We started doing more dates together. She managed me against Eddie Guerrero. She took a few bumps from Eddie Guerrero in that match. Eddie took a tornado DDT from my wife in that match, all in the midst of this almost 20-minute match where I could say without question, without reservation, that it was the best match of my entire career. You can find it. It's on YouTube somewhere. Elks Lodge. I think it's under Eddie Guerrero, Devon Storm for USA Pro or ICW. I forget which one of the two companies claim the match on YouTube, but it's whenever I see him, he's just an incredible performer, such a great class act. When I met him, I got to work him 3-4 times, but when I see that guy, he was responsible for the best match of my entire pro wrestling career. And I was such a fan of him before that match and being able to go out there and perform. And I was in that match as a professional, but I was in that match as a gigantic fan of Eddie Guerrero and what he did for me and for my wife to let us shine. It was just remarkable. With the match, I encourage people to watch it. And it's just such a special, special moment that me and my wife still talk about to this day. Thank you to Frank Goodman in Florida for booking that match and putting it together. Repeating myself again, without question, the best wrestling match of my entire career was against Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, he's one of the best to ever done it. And I encourage people that, if you're newer to wrestling, you may have just heard the name. There's so many matches you can go back and watch Eddie Guerrero is involved in. They're just
incredible stuff. amazing body of work. That, if you want to use that term, from soup to nuts, from the beginning to the end, just an amazing, amazing body of wrestling work.
Absolutely. We got one more, man. So this was actually on this day. So 9th of November. This was I'll just get to it. The Montreal Screwjob, man. In Montreal. So I'll play it, then we'll talk about it.
And 93 fans standing, watching this matchup. There's a backbreaker. Can he stand it? Oh, Michaels just pulled the referee right in front of the hitman. Is that a disqualification? It might be if he could get up and call it. And again, Michaels raking the face. Look at this! Oh, you're kidding me. Michaels, are you going to try to beat Bret Hart with a sharpshooter? Yes, he is! Are you kidding me? What?
I think I'm cute. I know I'm sexy. I've got the looks that drives you.
What happened?
I've got the move that really move. I said,
what happened? Bret Hart gave up with a sharpshooter.
Just a sexy boy. I'm not your toy.
Shawn Michaels!
Just a sexy boy.
Wow, you talk about controversy.
I make them hot.
This crowd is living. Michaels with a sharpshooter has become the WWF champion. And Bret Hart is standing in disbelief.
Always deemed as probably one of the most well-known controversial moments in pro wrestling history. Chris, man, okay, so let me try to match up your timeline. You had been doing some stuff for them around this time, right?
This is an amazing time. I was just going to say it's uncanny how this clip came up. That was a pay-per-view, correct?
Yeah, Survivor Series, yep.
Okay, so I was on an airplane that night flying to where Raw was going to be the next day, because the following night, I wrestled Taka Michinoku in the first round of the light heavyweight tournament. So when I got to the building, everybody was abuzz over what had transpired the night before. It was like, I had no idea what had gone on because I did not watch the show because I was on an airplane. And I got there and I couldn't believe it. And just the scuttlebutt backstage and the confusion and what the hell is going on. There was a lot of commotion, disbelief. Oh, wow, that's effed up that they would do something like that. Every emotion you can imagine was going on backstage, and I was right there for it. But I just kept my mouth shut. I was the outsider, just happy to be there, and I'm just watching. And yeah, but it was like, even for me, it was, wow, I can't believe that happened. Once I heard the details of what transpired the night before.
This is one I actually did not watch. I didn't watch this one live, so I remember picking up on it the next night, and even back then, early internet days, reading some stuff, and it was crazy. So then you link back up later on at WCW with, because Bill and I have talked about this. Obviously, Bill was not there at this point in time until after WCW was purchased, but then you go back over to WCW with these guys later.
Yep.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's cool. We got to share some of these clips. And a couple of them, I mean, I guess all three of them really related to you in a way.
Yeah. It's nuts how they all did. Yeah. My ultimate inspiration, Macho Man Randy Savage, my best match of my entire career, my best wrestling match ever, Eddie Guerrero. And that event transpired that event transpired the night before the first round of the light heavyweight tournament. And so, yeah, they all directly have links to me, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, kind of crazy how I did that, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
We've reached our time here this evening. Like we said, Bill's out sick, and you've done a hell of a job stepping up, Crowbar, man, and filling.
Thank you, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was cool getting to know
feel
you,
better,
man.
my man. It was very nice getting to know you as well, man. Thank you so much, for the opportunity. This was a whole lot of fun.
I'm sure we'll cross paths again here sooner or later, man. I do want to take a second. Do you have some stuff you want to plug? I'll get your socials in the show notes. You're sharing some of the things that you're doing constantly there. Anything else that you want to plug or anything, man, that you know of off the top? Do you know your social handles off the top of your head?
I really only do Twitter. I'm on Facebook, but it's more for like my business and friends and stuff like that. So I'm kind of calm on Facebook. My wrestling related stuff is just primarily on Twitter at WCW Crowbar. I'm just too busy to do the other platforms right now. So I just stick to the Twitter. I know how to use it. And, that's all I got right now. I have a show coming up this Friday for ECPW in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. Next week will be ISPW in Midland Park, New Jersey. And I'm looking forward to going back to Philadelphia, the ECW Arena, 2300 Arena, December 16th to wrestle Facade. And next week, again, for ISPW, I'm locking up with my best friend, Danny Morrison, formerly known as Dastardly Danny Doring from E. And Bill knows this. When you wrestle somebody you're great friends with, it usually ends up pretty special and some fun stuff happens, some crazy stuff happens. And I think me and Danny Morrison are going to tear up Midland Park next week.
Love it. Love it, man. And I love how you're still at it and doing it for all the right reasons. I think that's very meaningful. So keep up all the great work. And for those of you listening, make sure if you haven't, maybe this is your first episode you listen to. We have an awesome catalog. I think Bill and I have already been at this for 9 months. We're like 34, 35 episodes in. So yeah, go check out some of the other content at BillDeMott.com. And you can contact me at Podcast Father on Twitter. Bill's at Bill DeMott on everything. So pretty simple and straightforward there. And until next episode, keep being you and keep being great.